everybody. What a great day to be together today, because we're talking about the subconscious mind here and the Think and Grow Rich Mastermind, where we study the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And today we're talking about such an energizing, exciting, I think, moment, which is you and the subconscious mind, us and the subconscious mind, and how we can be infused with that energy. Let me just share what Napoleon Hill wrote here, because I think it's really important. There is evidence that this living, pulsating, vibrationary energy, which permeates every atom of matter and fills every space, connects every human brain with other brains in a mysterious way we do not yet understand. So here's something so important. You watching us together, we are the mastermind. My community that you're going to be meet, my friends are part of the mastermind, and I need to make sure that we are raising our energy, raising and pulsating. And I'm going to share with you a song that I use every morning. I was sharing it this morning with my mastermind, and I want you to know this is the energy of this show today. Are you ready?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
Good morning. Good morning.
Hello and
How are you? Early in the morning, I say good morning.
hello and how are you?
Oh, and I just had to start my day with that, because raising our vibration is so key. And when we say good morning, I have to bring my dear friends into this amazing discussion that we're going to have today about the subconscious mind. First, let me bring in my buddy, my friend, my Chicago, my Midwest man, Galen Bingham. Galen, are you excited? Are you excited about today?
Oh, this is going to be a fantastic day. I am really, really excited. I think that was a great way to get us started. I'll tell you, one of the reasons I'm really excited about this conversation is because of the pre-conversation that we had. And we always say, we can't talk about this before the show because we won't be able to have this conversation on the show. But boy, I tell you, one of the key things is how as Napoleon Hill says, that there is evidence that supports that the belief that the subconscious mind is the connecting link between the finite mind of man and the infinite intelligence. So this is literally how you tap into all of the really supernatural stuff that we always hear about other folks doing. And this is how you get there. And so this conversation is going to be incredibly, incredibly important. So I hope everyone is up, they're ready, they've got their coffee, their tea, whatever they need to get into this conversation, because we're going to hit them with it. And I'm just trying to hold on to that energy that you're creating, Pegeen.
You know, when we start talking about this, Galen, I get super psyched. And what I love about today, so for everybody listening, and you and I know, is that today isn't only about you as an individual, but it's you as a participant in the mastermind, you as being not only a leader of a mastermind. The moment you are in a mastermind, you are part of the leadership crew that is in charge of raising the consciousness of the mastermind. And, we have Dr. Peter James, who is here about, leadership and how do we step into this role of leading ourselves within a mastermind. And Peter, good morning. I'm so excited that you're here.
Listen, Pegeen, first of all, the way you started this morning has woken me up a little bit, but I'm very excited to be here to talk about the subconscious, because what we often don't think of is what is being injected into our subconscious that we are not even aware of, right? And as we said during the pre-show, what are we allowing into our subconscious that we are not even aware of? Those subliminal messages that seep in and stick around, and maybe even, I'm going real deep here, allow us to have unconscious or implicit biases about people or things that we see in the world. So this is getting really deep, because now it also impacts about, we have implicit biases about what we can or cannot accomplish based on the subliminal or subconscious messages that we continue to receive each and every day. So now,
Oh,
to that end, let's go back to you, Pegeen, and see if the master builder has something to say about this too, right?
so I'm going, ooh, 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 Peter, with just what you're saying, and all I was thinking about was a part of the conversation of, our family can influence us. We get up early in the morning on Saturday, and if our family is around us and they're like, "Good morning," we have to work that much harder to get up because of the energy. And Ann McNeil, I know that you know this really well. So I'm so excited to have you with those red glasses, that red vibe going on.
Oh,
Talk to me about subconscious mind and family and this whole topic that we have of how do we influence ourselves and others through the subconscious mind.
well, Pekin, first of all, let me just start off by saying this is, I believe, one of the most powerful principles, because we don't know that we're being programmed. And I'm not going to steal his thunder, but uh, Galen's going to come on later and talk about the P word, but he'll leave that for him. But I think that it's so important that all of our listeners take a moment and just think about the power of the subliminal seduction that we experience every day from the media, from the advertisers, from what we decide consciously or unconsciously to program ourselves, whether it's a prayer, an affirmation, or a song. And this is one of the reasons why we can hear a small song early in the morning, and then subconsciously and subliminally it is playing over and over and over and over in our mind. So I'm very excited to delve into this conversation because it is so deep. I want to encourage all of our listeners, if you are following us every Saturday and you have your book, please open it up. You can also YouTube this conversation. Please remember to comment, like, and share our show. Do some others too. But let's go ahead, begin, and get this party started, because I know we're going to run out of time today.
You know, I'm so happy that you actually, just telling people like, share, comment, invite. If we say that on all the time, then people take action, and we
But
really want people
wait,
to know about that.
wait, begin. I have to interject this now. Okay, so comment, like, and share. That is a tee up for how the subconscious mind works. So I just planted a seed for the listener, with or without their permission, to go and comment and like and share the show. So everybody who's listening, how often do you hear a podcaster or someone, a speaker, ask you to do something and you do it unconsciously? So I just had to throw that in there. Now, we do want you to comment, like, and share the show, but I want you to also understand that we just planted a seed in your unconscious and your subconscious mind to go and take an action, whether you willingly desire to do so or not. And that's the premise of this program today.
Absolutely. And you know that when we infuse that message with some energy and some power, then people remember, if I'm going comment, like, and share, comment, like, and share. Ooh,
Oh,
ooh, then we're just going to keep on going. So we're going to keep on having this conversation because this is clearly we're talking about our own. First, we started as our individual. We came in with our own individual space of being, knowing that we had to infuse our subconscious, because being on air like this, the four of us really need to be lifted up. But then the second thing that I think is really important is, what do we do with the listeners? What do we do in our mastermind group so that we can be uplifted, we can be prepared? And I want to ask you, uh, you know, Anne, I'm going to come back to you because I want to ask you about how do you ensure that you are uplifted and using the principles of Think and Grow Rich? And I think that you're going to be sharing about some of those principles, but can you share why even this video helps you stay focused?
Well, again, first of all, it is starting with my own personal and professional desire. What is it that I, Ann McNeil, want? And by being clear about that, then the auto suggestion chapter and principle tells me that I must write a statement and recite it once upon arising in the morning and then once before retiring at night. And this is how we speak to our subconscious mind to bring to us, and I'll say to myself, whatever it is I desire. And so I have a process. And of course, it is in my book entitled A Daily Date with Myself. And I really go deep for myself on a daily basis, Joaquin, because see, this conversation about the subconscious mind is an inside job. And whether we realize it or not, we're being programmed all day long because the subconscious does not sleep. We may sleep and we may sleep on it, but that subconscious mind does not sleep. And so when you think about how do you work with it, and I'll say for myself, I am clearer now that the role, if you will, of the subconscious mind is to bring forth to me whatever it is that I desire. That's how I use the subconscious mind for myself, intentionally programming myself every single day. And then again, all day too.
And do you use 13 principles that
Oh,
are in the book?
absolutely. Yes. Let's talk about that now. If we can
Yeah,
go
let's
ahead.
share it because I
Okay,
think that
absolutely.
we want to be able to share. When did you say that?
Yes, but
Those
let me just say this, Begin. I think I want to just make sure that our listeners understand that the 13 principles are really the stimuli that you can acquire the ability to reach and influence your own subconscious mind. All 13 principles you need to understand by reading them over and over and or listening to them over and over and over again to see how they are actually the connecting link. And I just want to encourage you, please do not be discouraged as you listen to these principles and as you read the book, because if it does not happen for you on the first try, remember that your subconscious mind must voluntarily direct you by habit. Your subconscious mind voluntarily directs you by habit through faith to bring you whatever you desire. So let's go ahead and listen to the video on the 13 principles, and then we'll see you right back.
Number 1 is desire. Napoleon Hill said that everything starts with a burning desire, a compelling reason for doing what it is we do. Step 2 is faith, having belief in our ability to attain that which we desire. Step 3 is what we call autosuggestion. Autosuggestion simply means being very intentional about the things that we are pouring into our thoughts, into our brains, and into our consciousness. Our brains, our minds will receive everything automatically, but we have to work extra hard to make sure that the positive things are what we are feeding ourselves, because those positive thoughts are going to turn into positive actions. Step number 4 is specialized knowledge. No one person knows everything, even about whatever their particular area of expertise might be. And the value of the MasterMind principle is using the specialized knowledge of other people. Step number 5 is imagination, the workshop of the mind. Everything starts with our imagination and our thoughts, the burning desire to transform those thoughts into our reality. In order to do that, we have to take a look at step 6, which is organized planning. That is how we crystallize our desire into action, organizing ourselves. Having the thought and not acting on the thought isn't going to get us anywhere. We have the thought, we go through the organized planning to transform that thought into action. Step number 7 is decision. What Napoleon Hill said is the mastery of procrastination. Napoleon Hill said that the antidote to procrastination is simply to make a decision and then move on that decision. Step 8 is persistence. We have to have a sustained effort which is induced by our faith in order to achieve our goals. One of Napoleon Hill's books I love, even the title, 3 Feet from Gold. Those people who became rich during the gold rush in the Wild Wild West days didn't do that because they were necessarily smarter or had better information than anyone else. It's because they stayed just a little bit longer. Sometimes people left when they were just literally 3 feet from gold. So hanging in there, being persistent, is step number 8. Step number 9, the power of the mastermind, the driving force. None of us can accomplish anything on our own. Everybody, I don't care who you are, from the most prominent person to the person who might be considered the lowest on the totem pole, everybody has someone who helped them get to where they are. And the power of the mastermind is being able to use those influences around us, use the thoughts, use the knowledge, use the exploration of other people to help us in achieving our goal. Step number 10, the mystery of sex transmutation. This title can be a little confusing, but essentially what the mystery of sex transmutation means is that we oftentimes in our society think of sex as being purely physical. It is absolutely physical, but what Napoleon Hill teaches us is that sex also has an emotional element, and that sex is the strongest of our desires. That if we can take our sexual energy, transform that into positive, creative influences, it can propel us to new heights. And so we spend quite a bit of time talking about the mystery of step 10, which is sex transmutation. Step number 11 is the subconscious mind, which Napoleon Hill tells us is the connecting leap between our human mind and the infinite intelligence, the source of all thought, the source of all creativity. Conscious mind, we spent some time talking about how we use that through the influence of autosuggestion and what we're feeding into our mind. Step number 12, which is the brain, the broadcasting and receiving station of thought. Final step number 13, the sixth sense, the door to the temple of wisdom. This is the final step through which infinite intelligence may and will communicate voluntarily without any effort from or demands by the individual. The principle is the apex of the philosophy. It can be assimilated, understood, and applied only by first mastering the other 12 principles.
I'm so excited. Every time I see those 13 principles, I am fueling my subconscious mind. I want to take the time to say welcome and thank you, Doretha and George and Frank and Raquel and Annette and Barbara and our Facebook viewers. You know, this is our mastermind together. We're in this together. And one of the things that's important about the mastermind is the consciousness of the mastermind, our own subconscious. You know, there are us individual, and then we come together, and then we create a subconscious. And Gail and I were talking about that this morning, about the awareness of us as a mastermind. How do we build the subconscious of the mastermind so we're on mission, so we have great tone, so we really can have the dialogues that we need to have to grow? Galen, come on in. I want to just continue that because I think it's really important that people understand that there's us individually, and then there's this entity that we create together of the mastermind.
Yeah, you know, again, that's what we were talking about before the show, and we always get into trouble when we say we need to have this conversation on air, because one of the things that we acknowledge is that each of us really buy into the principles of Think and Grow Rich individually, and each of us leverage these principles for our own individual success. But when we come together as a group, one of the things that Ms. Ann, I'll bring Ms. Ann in shortly, one of the things that Ms. Ann talks about is the fact that when 2 or more people come together with a common goal, there's another brain, there's another mind that is in the midst, and we can use these exact same principles that we use for our individual success. We can use those same principles for our group success. And I know you've created a beta test for doing just that, for leveraging these principles more for the group. So I'd love for you to come on and talk a little bit more about how that beta test works. How do people sign up for the beta test? Because this stuff works. We might not understand how it works. We just know that it works. So how does the beta test work?
Well, Galen, you just teed that up perfectly, because this stuff does work. Now, what Galen just did subconsciously, he just planted in our mind stuff. And the stuff is the power of the subconscious mind. And so inside the mastermind group, your own mastermind group, whether you realize you have one or not, I will encourage you to consider forming a mastermind group of accountability with your family or friends or coworkers or whoever you decide, but only start with one more person. And the two of you must be in total agreement with the third person. The three of you must be in total agreement with the fourth person. So we are creating a beta test group to create the best practices for masterminders. And you can go to internationalmasterminders.com/group mastermind. We're planning on having a meeting. This is a free meeting. It's a beta test. It's going to be on November the 16th. The details will be sent to you once you register, and you can participate in the conversation. But it is for those individuals who are currently in a mastermind group, or you're considering starting a group. All right. Now, if you want to just mastermind, and you don't want to start a group, then you can just call Galen or Begin or Peter, or you can call me. But for this beta test, it is really just for mastermind groups where we are going to create best practices. Thank you.
So I want to bring everybody in. I want to bring Peter in because we are a mastermind. And one of the things that I know is with the subconscious, we consciously bring ourselves into the mastermind. And as a group, we absolutely create some energy. So you know that I love energy and I love to create this. So I want to have a little bit of discussion about, let's talk about first about how do you come in to set the tone of the mastermind? What is your responsibility as an individual, and what is your responsibility, or what are your thoughts even as you're leading or pulling your group together? Peter, and I don't want you all, I want the four of us to stay on because I really want this to be a discussion. So Peter, what is your responsibility to set the tone?
Yeah, I think if you think about it, you almost have to first check in with everyone to ensure that everyone is on the same page, to see how they're showing up, to see what's going on in their lives. Listen, to see if they're having a bad day, for that matter, to try to help pick them up. The text says negative thoughts, negative patterns automatically inject themselves into our lives. So those of you who are listening, and thank you so much for Doretha in the chat for talking about your affirmations. But negative thoughts automatically inject themselves. So how can we not help but intentionally shift that narrative? How can we intentionally inject positive thoughts, not only into ourselves, but now, per your question there, Pegeen, your mastermind, especially early on, to check in, but also start talking positives about what each other are doing, positives about what I'm doing, in order to line up on that trajectory and then keep moving forward from then on out.
Oh my gosh, I see Galen jumping up. It's so what happens when we have that person that is like, everything is bad. They're like bringing the group down just by their presence. Galen, what can we do to lift that group up? What do we individually do, and what can we do to make sure that we're here?
Yeah, this reminds me of some of the training that I've done, specifically with sales leaders, where I would ask the leader, do you know what business you're in? And they would tell me the industry that they're working in. They'll tell me the thing that they're selling. And I would remind them that is not the business that you're in. Most leaders don't know the business that they're in. It's not the leader's responsibility to make the sale. It's not the leader's responsibility to market the thing. It's the leader's responsibility to maintain the environment so that the group can make the sale, so that the group can market the thing. And I think in this case that the same is true. It's the leader's responsibility to maintain the energy, to maintain the environment so that the individuals in the group can achieve their goals. And so I'm reminded that, in very similar to what Dr. Peter said, it's the leader's responsibility to maintain the energy, the environment, so that the individuals can accomplish the goals that we've set out. And I think it starts with setting the priorities, setting the objectives, focusing on the desire for the group.
So is the desire and the mission of the groups the same thing? And is that the same thing? Like, so I'm coming to this group, I'm showing up. How do I know that I'm aligned?
Well, let me let's take us back to the subconscious mind. And we know that we have a individual subconscious. I contend that the group also has a subconscious mind, and that is that extra mind that you cannot see. And so, as a part of the process of masterminding as a group, just like you want to be mindful of the fact that you start your day with an affirmation, we, as a part of the International Masterminders, we start our mastermind group with that group affirmation. You see, because when we recite our group affirmation before we start our mastermind meetings, it sets the tone. It sets the tone. And so this is one of the reasons why it's so very, very, very important to understand the power of that subconscious mind, and how do you program your own subconscious in terms of what you desire to do. And you may not know exactly how it's going to happen, but be mindful that through the auto-suggestion and self-talk, you are talking to yourself more than anybody else is talking to you. Inside your mastermind group, the group should be starting with an affirmation to set the tone subliminally to talk to the group about what you should be talking about. So all of that negative talk, deal with it when you write your affirmation. Same thing with the family. We've talked previously about the power of a mastermind in the family, and a family should have a family mission statement. That's an affirmation for the family. So again, how do we program our self-talk through the subconscious mind? It is done through auto-suggestion and the words that you choose to repeat over and over and over again.
Oh my gosh, and you just brought back a memory for me. Years ago, when the kids were small and I had decided that I was opening my business, and I had left a corporate job, I had the opportunity to work with Steve Covey. He had come to my area, and he had just had his new book about about the family and family missions. And the newspaper, you could apply, and I applied to meet with him. And David and I got selected to work one-on-one with Steve Covey.
Oh,
and it was really interesting, because through that we were able to write our family mission. We were really clear about what our mission was. What did we want for our children, not just in that moment, but in 25, 30 years.
Yes.
And we became so focused that we wanted our children to be leaders who make a difference in this world. And then 2, they were going on to college and graduate school, and we weren't paying for it. So we whispered that, we talked about that at every family meeting, every dinner. That was just like infused. Both of them, I will say, have completed college. Andrea's at MIT, full ride. She doesn't pay a dime to go, or her rent, or and nothing, full ride. the same thing with both of them for colleges. I think that that's really important. And I see you raising your hand. I see you
Yes,
like,
because I get
you
yes.
see,
I'm
you
like
can tell when Ann's ready. She kind of jumps. Go ahead, Ann.
yes, because I'm ready. I'm like Gayla now, leaning forward to jump in, because what you just described is one of the books that we use as a part of IMA. Is Stephen. For me, it's my favorite book of all the books he's written, and I've read maybe half of his books. But the name of that book, again, is entitled 7 Habits of Highly Effective Families. And somebody
That's
please
it.
put it in the chat. Of course, that's it. This is the master builder here. You kidding me? I
No.
just love this. Listen, wait a minute.
She's not
Because
the master apprentice. She's the master builder.
we're gonna come back to that apprentice in a moment. So you got to tell that story. But I would leave it toward the end, because once you drop that, we need to be getting off the show, because otherwise the phones are gonna light up, the chat is gonna light up, and everybody's gonna have something to say after you finish. But I just want to go back to what Pekin did, because she planted a subliminal thought in me. I teed it up and mentioned his power of the affirmation statement for the family. I want to make sure everybody understand we are having a subconscious mind conversation here today. It is the connecting link for everything you desire. And what we're doing is we're showing you and exhibiting for you how to control and plant in your subconscious mind whatever it is you desire. You want to be conscious. You want to be money conscious. You want to be health conscious. You want to be success conscious. You want to be family conscious. So when you think about all of these things, how do you become that? You must be clear, like Begin just said, about what it is you desire for your family. How do you get them to buy in? And what I love about what he did in that book, Begin, when he talked about, and all of you can go get the book, you can go to YouTube, you can go to Google, but come back to us and understand the power of this conversation is the power of the mastermind group. Whether your mastermind group is a family, a business, or something you pull together. But what he did in saying that, Begin, he shared that every single person, no matter the age, because some of us have adult kids, must participate in the writing of that affirmation, because you're going to subliminally come up with a statement that's going to program the future of your entire family. And this is such a powerful thought to consider. But he also shares, Begin, that it can take 6 months to a year, literally, to come up with the statement that everybody agrees upon. It's not going to be
Or
quick.
you do it with so much enthusiasm and so much persistence. And my kids had no clue what I was talking about, but clearly we made it into a song. We were there. Now, we are lucky. We are blessed. We are so blessed to have Peter, who before he does his work now, he absolutely had served our country. And one of the things that was really interesting then in my work, and I want to talk to you a little bit about that, Peter, is how mantras and cadences and constant repetitive takes teenagers, young teenagers, which is still mind boggling to me, that you would take a 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old, do something repetitive with them, talk to them about them, instill with them a culture. Then you actually trust them to take the bolt out of the helicopter, put the bolt back in the helicopter, and you get on that helicopter and fly away.
Yeah.
So Peter, I got how is that cadence? How is that mission? How does that work in terms of the subconscious? How does it change people? Because you've done it in the Army, but you do it now with the work. Can you share that a little bit about how this mastermind can be huge?
Yeah, it actually, it's such a good question, Piggy, and thank you so much, because you just took my mind in a few different directions, starting with the military. So the military in and of itself is a culture, right? And in that culture, in all cultures in society, there are messages that continue to be passed down from person to person, leaders to subordinates. How about this one? Generations to generations, right? Through, and as you mentioned in the military, cadences, mantras, words. To this day, I remember the core values of the Army because of the acronym that I was forced to memorize. So when someone says, "Hey, what are your core values?" in an interview, I just toss out the military core values, right? So funny to this day. But here's where I want to take this culture question and also bring it back to all of you who are watching and listening and participating in this conversation, right? In many of our communities around the country, around the world, also in our ethnic communities, in our families, there are also mantras and messages that are being passed down from person to person to person, individual to individual, generation to generation to generation, that are not those mantras or affirmations or missions that we talked about that we need to do for the family. So if you don't have a mission statement for your family, what messages are being passed down? And oftentimes, unfortunately, we can look around in our communities and we could just see the messages that are being passed down. Sometimes society has an interesting way of disempowering us. So now, what are the messages that are underlying in the African American community, in the Latino and Hispanic communities, in communities from wherever you're from? What are the underlying messages that are being passed down because you don't have a mission or a vision or value statements? Ooh.
Oh, wait. I love what you just said.
Teacher, go to Galen first.
Wait a minute. So years ago, I ran a family support center for gang members in New York City. So I worked with the Latin Kings, the Bloods, the Crips, and we had a whole bunch of services. But one of the things that I brought in was Dennis Kimbrough's daily manifestations for African American success, and we would read a page, and I'd have one of the kids read a page, and we'd have a deep discussion about what he was sharing. Dennis Kimbrough had written Think and Grow Rich, a Black choice. And what is really interesting, so I had Latina because I'm Latina, and there was starting to be a shift, a change, a perspective. And this is why the subconscious, what we infuse, what we put in our mind, is so critically important, because we could change generations in the future by changing our consciousness today. And this is why masterminds are so important. This is why us stepping into a group of people who uplift us, who have mission, who are focused, is so critically important, so that you can't help but talk about what's going on today with your family. I mean, anybody just put in the chat, share, just from today, I'm going to talk about this after the show. Put in the chat, commit to it, because I think it's really important. And there is no better way for everyone to get infused starting in January, infused with this consciousness. Peter, you got to tell them about what's happening in January, because this is infusion. I can't hear you.
I'm just talking on mute. I said, then we have to jump over to our colleagues who are chomping at the bit, of course, to dive on into this subconscious conversation. But really quick, before we bring them on in, if you are listening, if you are watching, and you don't have that culture that has a mission or a vision or values that Pegeen and I are talking about, that we're all talking about, then this annual meeting that we have coming up at the beginning of the year, which is pretty much upon us, is a must do for you. If you have not signed up yet, listen, I'll be there, Galen will be there, Ann will be there, Pegeen will be there. We'll all be there, because we realize how much this mission, this values, these mantras, how important it is to affect our subconscious, to positively inject messages into our subconscious. In this case, of course, through a mastermind / accountability meeting. So Pegeen, I'm looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to hearing a little bit more about what our colleagues think about this conversation as well.
You know, I'm going to start with that song. I'll be there. I'll be there. That's all I could do. So Galen, you're just like, you're doing the Ann McNeil lean forward, wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. So what are you wiggling about?
Yeah, I was just thinking about what Dr. Peter said. And, the challenge that I would put on top of what he just said is if you look around your room, if you look around your life is a manifestation of what you've been thinking about. So your outside is an extension of what's going on the inside. I worked with a consultant once who phrased it as your inside game controls your outside game. So if you don't like your outside, you've got to change your inside. If you don't like what your outside is showing you, I challenge you to evaluate what has been the affirmation, what has been the message that's been circulating in your life, in your family, in your household, in your business. What's been that affirmation? And the story that Ms. Ann keeps alluding to. One of the finalists for the show The Apprentice in 2004. In 2004, I was just coming out of business school and had an opportunity to hear Kwame Jackson speak at the National Black MBA Association. And he must have said some amazing things, I'm sure, because he was a brilliant dude. But there's only one phrase that he said that has stayed with me for close to 20 years. He talked about how the book that changed his life was this book called The Pimp, Story of My Life by Iceberg Slim. And he said that in that book, he learned that all of life, in business particular, but all of life is categorized into either pimps or prostitutes. And this is what he said. He said, if you're not the pimp of your life, then guess what? And at that point, he just shut down, he dropped the mic, and he walked off the stage. And so my question to you is, if you're not the pimp of your subconscious, guess what? Because even Napoleon Hill says that the subconscious is constantly working. It's either working based upon the program that we give it, or it's working based on the influences of the world. So I'm going to ask that question of you. If you're not the pimp of your subconscious mind, guess what?
The best statement that I learned and I've used, and I share it with everybody, and I share with myself, is what you think of me is none of my business. What I think of me is all of my business. And that I get to decide who I choose to be. I get to decide through my thoughts and my actions how awesome I am, how fabulous I am, how impactful, how influential, how inspirational. And I have to tell you, I teach people all the time. Look in the mirror in the morning and watch what you're saying to yourself. If you get out and you're naked and you're looking at yourself and you're busy looking at what's wrong with my face? What's wrong with this? And you're lifting up your belly and saying, oh, then that's what you're seeing of yourself. However, if you get out of that same shower and you have that same thing and you look at yourself and go, oh, I am awesome. Check me out. Look at my beauty. Look how awesome I am. And you fall in love with that person that's looking back at you. That's power of the subconscious mind. That is, the universe agrees and aligns. Remember, there's that saying, God doesn't make any junk. Well, let me tell you something. If you keep on putting yourself down or not thinking that you can make the money that you want to have, if you have those thoughts, you are saying that the universe cannot supply me all that I demand and deserve. And I got to tell you, the universe is a freaking abundant, amazing, prosperous place. And I get to choose to live in that world than to choose in a world that's looking at everything bad. That's my point of view. And I see that smile on your face. And Peter, I see it on your face. So I'm going to go first with
I'll go
Han, and then I'm
first.
going to hit you, Peter.
I'll go first. I put in the chat, and right after Peter said what he said about uh, the subconscious mind, it reminded me of another book, and I put it in the chat. It is entitled "The Jewish Phenomenon." When he was asking about, how we are, financially or whatever, as a community of people that are Black. Well, it reminded me of the Jewish Phenomenon, the book. You can Google it. I do have a book list too, so we'll talk about that another show. And there's a story in the book, which you just reminded me of, Bakeen, also, where this Jewish mother is pushing a carriage with two little boys in it. She's on the sidewalk. She's walking these two little boys. And this passerby is walking toward them. And, she stops, and the passerby says, "Oh, what beautiful little boys. What's their name?" The Jewish mom looks down and she says, "Oh, my 3-year-old, the doctor, his name is John. My 2-year-old, the lawyer, his name is Peter." She has already decided, subliminally letting them know who they're going to be. And so this is what it looks like. And we're talking to all of us. This is what it looks like when we name our children and ourselves, going to Begin's point, when she talked about looking in the mirror. But what we also want to understand is that there's some self-talk that happened 40, 50, 60 years ago when you were a tot, that somebody said something or did something, and you're still holding on to that, good or bad. You get to choose. And all we're doing here today in this show, as a part of your mastermind, is to encourage you, get a mastermind group of accountability, a place where you can go with safety and security and share. How do you undo some of that stuff? How do you unpack some of that stuff? How do you replace it with the positive affirmations that Begin is talking about, that Napoleon Hill is talking about? This is a deep subject to unpack. We could really be in here all year. Okay. Oh, another book. Another book. Oh, okay. I'm done. Okay. Every Friday morning. One more book, and then we'll go to Friday. Yes, I told you we're gonna. Okay, another book. The unconscious language. Google it. About $50-$60, I think, is the book, but it's so powerful and it's so worth it, because what the guy is basically saying is that your own self-talk. How do you unpack that stuff? What are the exercises? Don't try to do this on your own. Okay, Galen, I'm done.
No, I mean, I just wanted to toss out another book
Yes.
because there's another book that talks about that very thing, that it's been out for a while. It's called What to Say When You Talk to Yourself.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
I
that's
love
a big
that.
one.
Yes.
So wait a minute. I'm gonna call my mastermind buddies out on a minute, because I love what you just said, Anne, and you said something, and it just, you said it, and I'm gonna call us out on it. So you said, "I love this book. It's called The Unconscious Language. It's a little bit pricey. It's $50." And I went, "Wait a minute, why is she saying that?" And then I realized, wait a minute, she just said something really important for us to hear. Everybody, it seems, wants to price their books at $19, at $20, because, oh, people will buy it at 20. But if I raise the price, I'm not going to buy that book. And here you just said, with such ease and grace, it's $50. And the truth of the matter is, the content, the belief he had in what he did, he was able to raise his prices. And I'm going to challenge every single person here. I saw a really interesting meme the other day that said, we are in the place of inflation. Have you raised your prices? Have you are paying more for gas, you're paying more for this. Have you valued yourself enough to raise your prices, to increase your prosperity, to be ahead of the inflation. And so I love you. I love the three of you very much, but I'm just calling you out. Maybe it's time for us to raise our prices. Peter, what are you thinking about what's going on right here?
Really thinking about how much I need to raise my prices there, Peggy. Really reflecting in my head. Yeah, what are my numbers at right now? What do I need to go to for sure? But such an interesting conversation just overall. Going back to the self-talk thing, again, a question for all of us. What are you saying to yourself? What are you saying to your subconscious? And I'm literally saying, what are the thoughts? What are the words that you are regurgitating to yourself, which turn into actions and behaviors, right? And that's so, so important. So now it's so important to understand and grasp what is around you that is seeping in, that you begin speaking, that you begin thinking, that begins to also dictate what tomorrow looks like for you.
Mhm.
And that's so, so important for all of us, for sure. Yeah, good stuff.
Peter, I just have to jump in and share what you're doing. So when I was 49, my mom said, and I said, oh, when you have 50 and you go to this, you are just going to balloon. You're going to be a big lady. And boy, did I grab that, run with it, keep it, so that over the years, I put on over 100 pounds. And about about a year ago, I saw somebody changing their lifestyle, and she was around my age, and suddenly she was changing. And then about 7 months ago, I saw somebody else my age changing, and the mindset started changing of, wait a minute, I've been repeating something that I can tell you my mom didn't even remember that she said it, but I grabbed it on.
Yeah.
And so I'm proud to say I've lost 50 pounds.
Yes.
And I'm proud to say, that I have infused in my subconscious mind of, ooh, I'm amazing. I am hot. Look at me. I'm in the best shape that I've been in my life. And those are my new affirmation. Those are the new beliefs. That's the new faith. And it's also being in mastermind. I'm in a mastermind group with people who choose to eat the way I do, to choose to share their stories, and they have a mantra, which is it's don't eat no matter what. 3 meals a day, nothing in between, one day at a time.
Peggy, if I could jump in really quick, it was interesting about what you said is there's no doubt in my mind that you share a love for your mother and vice versa, right?
Right.
But even with relatives that we have, there's sometimes are those messages, communication that seeps in that is not entirely positive, that have affected us all in some form or fashion. But here's the other thing. Sometimes we communicate stuff to others. What are you communicating to your family now that is going to affect them, not just today, but for the next 10 years, right? So it's important that we are very cognizant, intentional about who we are surrounding ourselves with, and what does the communication look like back and forth. That's going to also put us on that positive trajectory.
Yeah, let me just add something, if I may. Begin, I just put in the chat when you made that comment, because prior to that, I made the comment about things that have happened in our past that are sitting there and we're not aware. I'm telling you, this subject is deep. I just put in the chat that the sub does not know the difference between what's true or what's false. It only knows what we tell it over and over and over again. And while we're on this subject, we want to thank every single one of you in the chat who's sharing your thoughts, because it is so empowering. But I also want to just remind us that you have a choice. You can lie to yourself about what you desire, because your mind does not know the difference. Oh, I'm broke. No, I'm rich. The money's just not in the bank yet.
Mm-hmm.
Little things. find a way to shift it. As a part of my 3-day retreat, when I coach my retreat clients, the first thing I ask them to do, and it's a part of our meeting that we're going to have in January, is I ask them to bring their obituary. Oh, I don't want to think about that. Oh, guess what? You're going to die. Get over it. Okay. But if you write your obituary now, program your life by starting with the end in mind. Tell the universe what life you've already lived, and then turn it around and start living that life.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, it's not a lie. It is projecting the future. It's called a vision.
Absolutely.
A vision for your health, a vision for your wealth. So I wish we could stay in this subject.
Okay, we did. Obviously, we all love this, and we can talk about this with all of you that are
We have
watching.
2 minutes. 2 minutes
So
to
here's
tell our
two things. Next week, we are having Dr. Mia Merritt, who is going to be this positive force with us. Dr. Mia Merritt is coming next week, so I can't wait. We're going to be talking about the brain. Before we and I am so happy to be with everybody here, my buddies. So we're going to go real round robin over here. Tell people how to connect with you, how to see you, how to love you, and most importantly, everybody watching, would you all subscribe to this channel? I want us to have 100 subscriptions so we can get our own name. So subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Galen, how can people meet with you?
Absolutely. The best way to reach me is via my brand new podcast, Whiskey, Jazz, and Leadership. We talk with other successful people, and we share the whiskeys we drink, the jazz music we listen to, and what it really takes to be an effective leader of other people, or either just a leader of yourself. I double dog dare you to check us out at least once on any podcast platform. Peter, what about you?
Yeah, thank you so much, Galen. Loving Whiskey, Jazz, and Leadership lately. Some great interviews for sure. My name is Dr. Peter A. James, the high performance coach, helping you to shift your mindset. You can find me on any social media platform at Dr. Peter A. James. That's at DrPeterAJames, or shiftyourmindset.com. And McNeil, the master builder.
Yes, let's do something a little different today. If you want to connect with me, you can go to my website at annmcneil.com, because today and for the rest of the next 2 weeks, I am only going to focus on my 1-day retreat, because the 3-day is locked. Too late. You can check us out next year. But if you go to annmcneil.com for events, you can participate with us in our 1-day retreat, but only if you're willing to do the work and you have a desire. If you don't have a desire and you know what you don't know how much money you want, don't come. I do mean that, because you take up some space, and that subliminal seduction would not be good for the rest of us. You do need to pre-qualify with me though. But annmcneil.com, and we'll see you there.
And I'll say my mantra: I'm a multimillionaire. I am a multimillionaire. I've got a wonderful business in a most wonderful way. And if you want more of me, you definitely want to join Pegeen.club, where every day you're getting daily bits bursting with brilliance about confidence, leadership, business, sales, prosperity, and motivation. $7 a month. I really want you to be with me and get you in your head. I want to be in your head full of love. This is Think and Grow Rich, the Mastermind Show. We are live. We are here every Saturday at 8 a.m. to serve, to infuse, to joyfully get you from where you are to where you want to be. Join us every Saturday at 8 o'clock. So happy you're here. See ya.